how dumb for having listened to it.
This is the Lunchtime Catch-Up Podcast. I am your host, Scott McNeese, and on the line, we have the Grant Heel. Welcome, buddy.
G'day, Scotty. Hello to everybody and all the listeners to the We're Wildly Excited Again, but we're totally confused also edition of the Lunchtime Catch-Up Podcast.
But we're more...
What an incredible win.
It was a win that literally took me 15 minutes to process after the siren. It was one of the most bizarre moments I've had at the football where I'm telling myself off for my own disbelief, but I literally in my head, I had us losing 15 minutes before the siren. And it really took me a long time to process that we won the game, because I don't know about you, Essendon don't win those games. Even when it gets close.
Mate, they don't.
Even when it gets close, I'm going, what tragedy. All right, we're going to get within 6 points. Some turnover, some bad handball. Okay, just do it, GWS.
And they're just going to pull away as per normal.
And we just keep kicking goals. We get the lucky call. I'm not saying it with 100% certainty the ball's touched, but we get the lucky call this week. And Hooksy turns into John Coleman, and we've won the game. And, like, even when the siren went, I don't know if I even jumped up and down. I was like, what the hell just happened? And
100%
it was
the same.
It was complete shock, and but I can't be happier. And look, first and foremost, the character of those boys to not drop their head and fight back, and including some younger boys as well with Parrish and Langford and that. There's something to appreciate when guys aren't having great games like Hooksy and like I mentioned, Parrish and Langford and a few others, and when the moment comes when the season's on the line, for them to stand up and play some of their best footy and to get us over the line, it just gives you that little moment of, okay, the character of the boys is really good, and that's something to build on. Wasn't a perfect win by any means. There was obviously, everyone saw moments of frustration, but hey, I'm hoping that the theme for the guys is the character that's built, and we beat a top 4 team, and it's we've lost 2 of the last 13 in top 4 teams, and every time I've played a top 4 team, and that goes something that I really rate GWS through the roof, and our midfield just smashed them in the last quarter, got on top, and then we had some forwards marking, and we've won the game.
Mate, I tell you what, my overarching feeling after that game was I'm so confused. We have the ability to show the kind of incredible pressure that would have surprised the hell out of GWS in that first quarter. And then we have the ability to not drop our heads and come back from 18 points down to win. I honestly love what the boys did, and I want to feel that way again in the future, but I'm so confused. We can do West Coast, and then we can do that.
Well, it's strange, we literally doubled the amount of tackles in 2 games. We had 40 tackles against West Coast, and we have 79, basically 80 tackles against GWS. Look, we'll talk about it later in the show. It obviously tells you a bigger picture of the Essendon season and how up and down we can be. But when we're up and we have that pressure, we can really trouble most teams.
Oh, 100% agree. When we're up and about, it looks like we've got a good mix of young and old. We've got a good mix of like Clarkey and Langford and Parrish and all those things. Then we've got the older heads in there. We've got the Heppels and the Zarakases and stuff. And the midfield starts to look like that midfield that we thought we'd built and really sort of put a cherry on top with Shield. So our forward line is still just a disaster area. But the back line is rock solid. The midfield on its day can do really well. So
on its quarter.
Yeah, for the first quarter. So yeah, we'll get into it a bit later on in the podcast. But I'm so confused, Scotty. I really am.
Yeah, well, an interesting stat was that 2/3 of our goals were scored from turnovers, which is our pressure. Which tells you a little bit about what you're just saying about the forward line was still dysfunctional for a lot of the game, because our goals have come from our pressure rather than, a nice piece of teamwork down the field. But it does show you, I think even the Collingwood game where we should have won that, we had that kind of pressure. We do trouble teams when we bring that. It's just, do you have the energy every week to bring it? And
That's I think if you get down into a bit of nitty gritty, that's probably where we're at. I just worry whether or not we have that ability.
Yeah, and this is a good time to try and get a couple of wins in a row, because we've obviously had a few 6-day breaks, but now you've got an 8-day break going into Sydney. Sorry, actually Sydney are coming to us. And if you can apply that pressure after an 8-day break, because you're going to get a good rest, so there's no reason why we can't come out full of run. If we can really give it up to them and get that win, and then we've got another 7-day break after that, we can, we can get on a little bit of a roll.
We pinched that game that you and I said in the next 3 games we needed to pinch it, and we did.
We did. We not to displease all the other listeners, but on our Patreon podcast, we were talking about this game after the team changes, and we were talking about, we have the ability to win this game, but do we have the form, the form and going into it, and the will to do it? Now the form probably still needs a bit of a step up, but the desire for the contest was there, and that gives you a chance no matter what. And GWS is the highest scoring team in the AFL, so they've scored 71 points. So they had an off week, the defense, and with West Coast and how our midfield played, I get it, but they've come back really hard and nullified GWS to 10 goals, which is not easy. And credit to the back six again.
Mate, I tell you what, with the names that are in that GWS forward line, the ability to keep them to the amount of goals that we kept them to is amazing. I mean, Jeremy Cameron is a proper gun. That other dude's all right too, and
Himmelberg or whatever.
Himmelberg or whatever his name. What's the other bloke, the left footer's name? Anyway.
Yeah. Green,
to keep them under.
Sorry, yeah.
It just absolutely reiterates the fact that our back line is the best in the comp, and I do hope that Woosha, that he, when he's talking internally, that he can trade off the fact that the back line and the run off the back line from Sardi and Connor is elite. It's the best in the comp, but we've got to try something different in that forward line, man. The amount of times I see Waller being kicked to like he's, I don't know, like he's Jimmy Stewart at centre half forward trying to take a mark, or Joey D or something. It's a bit sad to see Waller trying to take marks over his head and getting hammered, because the forward line ain't working. Raz ain't fit. That's just simple. Beggs is down on form, and we got to have someone down there. And even if it is Kale, move him at half time or something.
Well, it's a good segue. So how about we go to a break, right? And what we'll do after the break, we'll talk about the changes that was made at 3/4 time and how that may be structured for the next 4 to 6 weeks with the news of Bellchambers' injury. So we'll talk about that and see how Essendon can move forward from here and be competitive in the ruck and then up forward.
All right.
Talk soon.
When you thought he couldn't get any better, Anthony McDonald, even when he gets back for the ball, front of the pack, the hard ball gets a pressure racks, the hard ball gets a pressure racks. Anthony McDonald, even when he playing footy, Anthony McDonald, even when he playing footy, take your mum, take your kids, take your nan to the footy. Anthony McDonald, even when he's playing footy, he's coming to get ya.
He's coming to get ya. That is the new song on Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody, the punk
Anthony
song.
McDonald, Tip and Woody playing footy. Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody playing footy. Gotta love that song, man.
I absolutely love it. I mean, it's not going to be everyone's sort of cup of tea as far as genre of music, but see, you know me, I am a punk fan from way back. I love that sort of stuff. So I'm like, I can't get enough of it, man. I'm just like, it'd be nice if you played well, but I can't get enough of the Tipper song. So give me more.
I want it. You're the guru. You're the mixmaster guru. I need it as a ringtone. Make it happen. I think everybody should make it a ringtone, or at very least get it on their phone. And when bring your phone to the match, and every time Tipper kicks a goal, everybody plays the song at once.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you're going to hear it a few times at games, at home games. I'm sure the club seems to have really embraced it, so which is pretty cool. So let's look. Before the break, we were talking about Bell Chambers going down, how we're going to look at the forward line. It's funny, on the social media, there's just been a lot of random thoughts. And I thought I'll pass some of the thoughts that I got sent to me, and I'll see what you think.
Sure.
So one thought was that Michael Hartley, who has been practicing a little bit in the ruck in the VFL, comes in.
Now, what is this? What is this I'm hearing of Hartley in the ruck?
What? Well, that's what I just said.
No. I'm very surprised. Like, this is the first. I don't know where I've been or what rock I've been under, but this is the first I'm ever hearing that he's ever spent any time in the ruck anywhere.
Well, I must admit, I've missed the last couple of VFL games. And then I got told that Michael Hartley's been playing some minutes in the ruck in the VFL. Now, we've got probably that many injuries. I wouldn't be surprised he's relieving a few times, a bit like what McKenna does in the seniors when Belly plays. But I don't know what his form's like, so I don't know if I could really have the authority to say if it's a good idea or not. He's not, for me, a body contact kind of player, so I don't know how that works.
But I mean, he's a backman. He gets hammered. He punches the ball. He's involved in packs. He's used to being physical with his body. I mean, look. I mean, Hearts is a backup backman for us, and that's great. But he does have good AFL ability. I mean, I don't know that he's on
around the ground. Yeah, around the ground. When the ball hits the ground, him roaming around the midfield, and he's got one of the deadliest kicks in the AFL. I mean, he nails 60-meter passes. So I see the advantage of when the ball's around the ground and he's roaming around the ground. I do like that because he's a very good mark. But I'd have to see more. I'm not dissing it because I just have to see more. What some people just didn't seem to like the idea of Zach Clark just being an automatic inclusion in the game.
But that's what he's there for, Scotty.
Yeah, I'm a little bit the same. Look, I understand what people are thinking, that maybe we try a different tactic and have a mobile kind of ruck option, like whether you have the McKernan or you have the hooker relieving. I understand the theory of it. I'm still, my mind still says I like the reason why hooker was dangerous because he had the flexibility going from defense to forward, and with the ruckman. And I still feel like the ruckman gives us a little bit more structure. And the ruckman, it is a unique technique. It is a bash and crash. It is a front-on contact at the centre bounce. It's how much you value, to me, the centre bounce a little bit, and I'm not sure what Essendon would read into that. So,
mate, and if that's the case, if they put Hartley in there, and I understand, they should just send Zach Clark home, just pay out his contract.
I know if you actually do play Hartley, Zach Clark obviously is told that he's
that will might as well be it. But if that's the case, then
so be it.
Thanks for your service, Zach. But I mean, just send him home. If they're going to pinch hit with Hearts, then, I don't know, maybe move him down back I don't know what happens, I don't know. But, I mean, just if you're going to pinch hit with Hearts, then pinch hit with Hearts. Do it. But if not, Zach Clark's there. He's no mug. Um, he hasn't performed particularly well to date, but he's no mug. Put him in the side, move on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, after the game, they were interviewing Heps and that. I mean, it seemed pretty obvious that Hep thought Zach Clark was just going to be an automatic coming in.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that is the case. So I don't. The thing you also have to think about with a Hooksy or McKernan going to the ruck, that their likelihood for injury increases dramatically, especially if you don't have the correct technique. So you've got to consider that, and I think you at least want Clark to at least cover the bulk of the games. That's personally me. So you've got McKernan and Hooker in the right areas. Look, if after a couple of weeks it's just really poor, then fine. You can make a decision on that. But I think you got to give him the challenge as a footballer and as an athlete. Yeah, at least lay out the challenge to him. Say, hey, you're the man. Give it everything you've got.
This is what we brought you here for. Yeah,
exactly. Look, it just shows you we're obviously wanting temporarily forgot his name. Sorry, the ruckman in the mid-season draft the whole time. This is where it's a little bit annoying, the system. Obviously, Sydney stole our ruckman from us in that mid-season draft. And because we wanted him for this very reason. And I feel sorry for the guy because, I mean, he's just sitting there in Sydney in the reserves with no chance of playing. And yet he must be thinking now, if I did go to Essendon, right now I'd be playing AFL.
I'd be playing exactly right.
Yeah, I'd be playing probably seniors footy. So it's sort of a small case where the AFL mid-season draft kind of hasn't really worked. But yeah, for me it's still a little bit. I'm still in the challenge Zach Clark and see how you go, and we'll assess after a couple of games. That's kind of my gut feel. The change at 3/4 time, I kind of found interesting. So Woosher spoke after the game, right? And they were asking about that move. And he noted that Hayden and Skipworth were kind of they felt like they were kind of the instigators of the move. And he talked about that all three of them then had a conversation for a while, and they talked about how it would work and then what the mechanics of that is, and eventually they decide to, we can make the hooker move. It kind of gave me an interesting view into how they operate a little bit, because I thought, gee, on the fly, like, that's a very... I hope there's not a committee every time you want to make a move, because sometimes you just got to make a move. But look, we were obviously forced to make moves because of the Bell Chambers injury.
But I like it, man. I like the move. I like it. Like, I just think everybody criticised John when he put Hooksy down forward to try and make him a forward. And that ended badly. I mean, he had to go back on what he was trying and make him a backman again. I think that's just him trying stuff and it didn't work, right?
Oh, look, I would mini challenge that it didn't work. It partly challenged. He kicked 40 goals in a season.
Yeah, right. So, but I mean,
it wasn't,
better down back. We've got the best back line in the comp. But I think his willingness to move Hooksy in this game, I think hopefully somebody at the club says to him, John, mate, that's a really powerful piece of evidence to see how much our midfield, how much better we can perform in the forward line if we've got a focal point capable of taking a mark. Now, Jimmy Stewart, Jay Danaher, Brownie's down on form. You just need somebody down there that can grab a mark. And when Smack's running out of the forward 50, he can do it, but we need him around the ground now.
Yeah.
So chuck Kale down there. See what happens again. And
even moving Parrish to be an inside player also worked as well. So he made about 3 or 4 changes visually to the eye to me. I thought he moved Langford a bit. I thought he put Parrish on the ball. Look, Parrish, despite, if you saw his stats, you'd go, okay, he's kicked only 1 goal, and I think he's had 15 or 16 disposals.
15.
But his last quarter, he was really, really good, and that's the first time, I think in about a month of footy that he's had less than 27 disposals. By the way, I really, really liked how under control he was in that last quarter. One area that I do have criticism on Parrish is when the kitchen's hot, he has a tendency to panic. And I thought that was a much better sign I saw from him. He seemed a bit more in control mentally in the game and was in the game in the last quarter and not panicking.
Which is a good thing against GWS's powerful midfield.
Yeah, and look, Langford a little bit the same. He had his one play right at the end where you could see he actually did sort of fumble and panic. But overall, he kept on hunting the ball, and he was tackling fiercely. He was actually one of our most fierce. He actually led the side in tackles. So I just liked the little things I saw from the younger players. Look, I have to mention two guys, and it's in our back line. I'll go with the first one. Adam Sard.
Genius little footballer, mate. I tell you what.
He is a very, very, very gifted footballer. And he did some crucial plays defensively.
Just getting hands on the ball and disrupting their play. There was a couple of times there where GWS were open for all money. And he got involved, he got a hand, he was just quick around the ball. And when he got it, mate, he's dead set. I reckon he's the quickest in the AFL, full stop. And for the first 30, 40 metres, or 20, 30 metres.
Yeah, he was just it was electric, and his defensive work, he would have saved at least 2 goals in my books. And when you win a game by one goal, yeah, it's a big deal. And look, the other guy I want to mention is Mason Redman. Just a
this kid every single game gets better and better and better.
It's just, coming back from a serious injury that he had, it is quite an astonishing comeback, and how he's performed in his last, it must be 7 or 8 games. He has not put a foot wrong in any game.
Talk about the club's inconsistent, but that guy is Mr. Consistency.
Yeah, I thought he was injured at one point. I think he went down like a spud at one point. I thought, oh no, did he smash his hip or his rib? But he got back up again. But look, just a fantastic player. Very calm, great football brain, and what a find! Just an amazing find, and look, he really has pushed, whether we like it or not, Francis out of that back line as like a set 6. I know, Francis.
Mate, the other question I wanted to ask you too is that Marty Gleeson comes back, and I think we'll put it down as better for the run.
Oh, definitely, yep.
Yeah, better for the run.
And that's a true one. That's a true one. That's you can't miss 680 games. 80 days of footy and not be rusty. Like, it's just.
Oh, mate. I mean, 13 touches coming back in. 2 marks. I mean, that's Marty's great. I love Marty to death.
He's got 3 levels to go up.
Better for the run, but mate, when you bring the Marty party back in, and we've got Francis again, mate. 16 touches, 3 marks. I mean, that's not bad.
His first quarter was actually really good.
Yeah, where does that leave Ridley?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. It's an incredible depth position because I would, I think at the moment I've almost got Ridley and Zerk Thatcher almost equal on talent.
Yeah.
And they just generally can't break into that back 6. And, I mean, how can you? They've now gone, 6 or 7 weeks with one bad game. But the others are just smashing. Yeah.
You couldn't possibly drop Redmond. Like,
no, and it's unlikely they'll drop Gleeson. They'll do a bit like Begley. They'll just try and work him into form and get his body right. He needs the experience again. I think obviously with injuries too, he'll definitely play again in my book. But yeah, just lastly on the Mason Redmond, just a fantastic person to have at the club. Loveliest guy too, by the way. I can't be more happy for him. Look, it's annoying because Cameron kicked 4 goals, right? And I actually thought Hurley played well. He kind of got 2 or 3 from either handballs or just where It was just for a defender, he kind of got those annoying goals where he hasn't really beaten you one-on-one overly.
No, and I guess this is the thing, dude, is that with that kind of midfield, he is always going to get some grade A on a platter kind of kicks down his throat.
Yeah.
So as Hurls, I mean, keeping Cameron to that many goals, like you said, not genuinely bare standing there one-on-one with Cameron and Cameron just beats him. Those sort of dinky ones where he got a good pass or it was a bit of broken play and he got a goal.
Yeah,
that's perfectly okay for me for Cameron.
I thought Hurls played actually well. Yeah, I actually thought Hurls played well despite Cameron's goals. There's a lot of attacks that he stopped, and a lot of times he had to leave his man to help us out, and that's always the risk. If Dido West do end up getting the ball, then it leaves Cameron open for a handball over the top or something. But I'd rather him take the risk and try and kill the contest.
And again, mate, even just 3 or 4, when you get 3 or 4 goals, I mean, 3 or 4 goals, but nobody else got any. Well, they got a few, but still, I mean, what did they end up scoring? 70 how many points?
71.
71 points. And I mean, that's consistent with the middle 70s average that we've had for the last X amount. Well, we won't be talking about the West Coast game, but that's middle 70s average that we've had for ages is the best in the comp.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to the midfield. Indifferent night. I thought Zach Merrick played well. I think Heppel played really well, and like Heppel's all heart. Like that's how he plays.
Whoa, Nelly. Got to go back a smidge, dude.
What?
Some of Zach's little kicks, mate, directly to the opposition.
Yeah. That's why you probably saw in my tone, my voice, because he played well, but not to a standard that.
Those skill errors again, they kind of confuse me a little bit.
It's unlike him though. He's the kind of guy. He's the kind of guy I go, I can ride with that as for one off.
Yeah, look, and this is the thing. I mean, 28 touches. Excuse me, 28 touches. He's all good. It's top of the list again. Zach's an A grader. Just those little kicks though. I assume he'd be down on himself for those because it's not like they were not particularly to advantage of our forward, and the guy had to work hard for it. You put it down the throat of a few blokes.
Yeah,
those sort of things hurt.
He actually had a couple of snaps for goal, like 30 metres out, and he just had no power through his legs.
Yeah, what was going on there? Like he did one, and I went, he's duffed that kick. That's fine. But then he had another one and didn't get the distance.
Yeah, it was an indifferent night, but it wasn't from lack of trying.
No. Zach's love the bloke. That's cool.
Yeah, 7 inside 50s. He's had he's put it that way. But he's just on 60% efficiency, and same with Dyson Heppel. They probably had similar games. A lot of heart and pressure, and just not as probably clean with the balls they would both like.
But it's Groundhog Day for Dyson Heppel. It's just another great game.
Just a work rate game, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
He is leading as well as he can.
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
Dylan Shield, kind of like serviceable. Like he definitely has his moments where you go, "Oh, this guy could be absolutely anything."
The boy is a jet. He's a jet. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The boy's a jet.
It's funny.
The manest of man crushes.
When he kicked that goal in the first quarter, and he had that clear break. They went back to the centre, and he had that clear break. I just wish he backed himself to keep running and having another shot. He kind of ended up putting in a little bit of a dinky nothing handball, and it was a turnover. But if I'm in Shields' ear as another midfielder, say, hey Dylan, take on the game, mate. Back yourself. Run to 50. Agreed. Have a shot. Because that's kind of next level elite stuff if we can get that, and it lifts the whole team. Zachar in his 200th, and congratulations Zachar on 200
congratulations games. Zach.
What a game! He is the guy. He is the guy that you think of the Anzac Day game, and when it's a big moment, he seems to have these spectacular wins. So on his 200th, I guess it's fitting that we win a game like that for Zaka and on his 200th. When we're kind of down and out and win in the last minute. But yeah, look, the Bell Chambers injury, that's really sad. It's obviously 6 weeks out.
Man, that sucks massive.
Look, I'd be interested because I believe he came off before he got injured, complaining that he had a bit of a sore Achilles. And I'm not going to say too much more because you know what I think of sometimes of our...
Yes.
But it obviously got worse the more he played, and they may have taken a risk there. I won't say too much, but just I'm concerned sometimes.
Say too much. Go on.
But yeah, it's hard because the season's on the line, so I do get it. But in normal circumstances, you would probably have rested him if he's saying his Achilles is not right.
No, but I have an opposing view. If he's that not okay, you got to think, okay, fine. If he gets through this game, great. He probably won't play next week or whatever it is. But
that's obviously what they felt.
Through that game, and he blows his calf and his Achilles out, that's 6 weeks out. Would you rather he miss this game or 6 weeks where we've got a distinct lack of a likelihood to win because we don't have Tom Bellchambers?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It'd always be debated, and you've always got professional people on the sideline, and you've got Billy himself. They took the risk, and it didn't pay off, unfortunately. But yeah. Look, what do you think of Dylan Clark at the moment? He's probably had 2 games now where, I guess he's kind of he started off with basically his career, I guess, with 2 really hot games, right? And now he's played the 2 games where he's coming back from the pack a bit, where he's not overly shutting down his man, and he's not getting the ball.
No, but dude, I watched him. I wondered who they were going to put him on, right? I wondered, was it Kelly? Was it Canelio? Who are they going to put him on? Because I look at this kid, and from when you take Cripps and whoever the hell the other dude that he beat or did extremely well on, he's a run with guy now. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I noticed him on Kelly for a minute, then he was on Canelio for a minute.
Yeah,
he
swapped. Yeah, he swapped around.
He swapped around. Now, this is what 5th game of AFL football. I'd like to think he was that good of a tagger that he could just swap around and move over to other guys and just be utterly seamless and shut this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy down. But geez, the kid's young, the kid's learning the trade. Chuck him on Canelio and leave him there. I think they're trying to go, right, well, geez, kid, you've done really well. Can you give us some midfield minutes as well?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of just identifying who's suddenly hot, and they go, "Oh, Kelly's had a purple patch. Can you shut him down?" And now Canelio's now got on top.
That's a hard ask.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about Dylan Clark at all.
Oh no! I'm not saying anything about dropping him or anything. That's far from it. I want the experience and I want him to learn the games. But I'm just more saying, I think the expectation is now that it's probably a little bit different. The kind of reality of AFL hits in, and opposition coaches also sort you out as well.
Agree.
You suddenly get a lot more heavier tactics as the run with player. You get bumped around a bit more yourself.
They run.
It's a good learning. It's good learning.
They run curves and stuff on you so that you have to go around people.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I don't know if there's much else I'm going to say. Look, Fantasia, he's clearly not right for me. But
he's not right, and that's a question I'd ask. Why are we playing him?
For me, I would make the move that he did in the last 10 minutes of the game. I think and this is where I liked Woosha. Or whoever made the call, someone bit the bullet and just said, "Fantasia, you're on the ball." And suddenly he had 4 possessions in 5 minutes and it was bursting out. And it just made me think maybe that's something to consider, to play him a bit high up the ground, just to actually get some ball in his hand, and get him back into form, because he just had this little burst of 5 minutes where you went, oh, that's okay. Now he's moving a lot better, and it was a very good move. It was a clever move to get him into they just had nothing to lose. So they tried to force him into the game and say, now you're on the ball for 5 minutes. And it actually worked. He started to make an impact. So it told me that in some ways his body's not too bad, but is he just, I don't know.
No, man, I don't know, man. Again, maybe it's the kind of ball that we're getting inside 50. Maybe he's a little bit injured and stuff, but it weirds me out that he wasn't right in West Coast at West Coast. I don't know that he was particularly right last night.
Yeah, he also got a whack to the head and was bleeding, but yeah.
Yeah, true.
But you're right though. How we've been moving the ball to the forward line is a little bit suspect, and it's probably a little bit of a byproduct of having both Fantasia and Wallow out of form.
That's actually a question I'd like to ask the listeners too on that one. What's their opinion of Orazio? What's going on at the moment? Do you think it's just a straight injury? Do you think he's just down on form? Send us a question on Twitter at the Lunch Catch Up. Couldn't get the Lunchtime Catch Up, so it's just the Lunch Catch Up. Shoot us a message on the Facebook page, or Patreons. Send us a message through Patreon. I'd love to understand where people is at, because this sort of is one of the reasons why I'm a bit confused about the club, in that Orazio's in, but it's not really Orazio at the moment. And maybe, like I said, maybe it's because we're putting the ball at his toes instead of down his throat and all that sort of stuff. Be interesting to hear what the listeners have got to say.
Yeah, it will be. And look, I'll finish this off. We're almost at 40 minutes, and I don't want us drag on too long. Short, sharp is a good one.
Yep.
So what happens if Stringer's available this week?
In.
Do you have him in for Brown? And I mean, it's kind of player for player, right? Because if you're having McKernan there, I look, Brown obviously was very quiet, right? And was the week before. So I just wonder if that's the change they might think of as a bit of a like for like.
Well, I can understand it, but again, even then, you've got another sort of tall. You've got a tall presenting forward less. Like Jakey Stringer's a great forward, but he's not he's not a forward like Kale or Brownie. Not that Brownie's been doing it recently, but that Brownie and Hooker can square us up and give us a target. Jakey's that, but he just he's that kick it to me and I'll do the rest kind of bloke. I don't know. Strangely enough, I want to keep.
Well, the other
Brownie
one. The other one might be Begley.
There you go. There you go. That's Beggs' 6 possessions. That's not okay. He's been back for 3 weeks now?
Well, about 6 weeks now.
Yeah, 6 weeks now. You're supposed to be getting better play, more possessions, and you just pulled out a dog of a 6. So yeah, back to the 2s, Beggs, and see if you can get some form. Jakey jumps straight in there for mine.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I thought Laverde did enough to warrant keeping him in. I thought he presented fairly well without starring, but he showed signs of real presenting to the ball, and his physical capabilities is always very, very good. So he did enough for me to remain in the side. So for me, it was out of Brown or Begley, and look, Brown they might keep because we play the Swans at the MCG, and Brown at the MCG actually runs around really well. Like if he's fit, he actually presents really well at the G. So they might be more tempted to have the Stringer swap with Begley. I think that might be the more likelihood, because Stringer can play that midfield / forward role, well, obviously to a very, very good level. But let's hope he's fit.
No, absolutely. I'm wildly confused. I don't know whether to be excited because we're really seriously half a chance against the Swans, or was that a fluke?
Yeah.
Or...
The interesting part is the Swans play Gold Coast, which they'll beat, this weekend, right? I'm pretty confident of that. And then with another win to them, they're now getting close to the 8 themselves, where they have a chance. So it is a full-on game next week.
Mate, everybody should get out to that game.
The loser has a long way to get to the finals. So, one, you're blocking a contender. It's a bit of one of those 8-pointers. So we need a really switched on side at the G. And yeah, if you can get to the game, please do. We need as much atmosphere and noise as possible.
Absolutely. Will they have Buddy? Is he back?
I don't know, but I've got a funny feeling. Didn't he do like a full? I got this gut feeling that he's not, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But even if he was on one leg, he would still kick.
I know. Annoying unit that is.
Well, that's it, folks. Fantastic win. So quite a lot of positives coming out of the game. Look, I think it's half of me still in disbelief, but it's just to beat a quality opposition is such a significant aspect to this win.
110% agree, man. I hope I'm this confused next week when we win again.
Yeah, if we win again, then I might, that little lid that we've closed for a long time, will just peep a little bit of light.
Edge open.
Yes. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. You can catch us on Spotify and iTunes and Instagram. As Grant said, the Lunch Catch Up on Twitter and on Facebook. Thanks to all our Patreons as well for your.
Yep, thank you for supporting the show.
Yeah, it's so. We're so grateful, and we really like doing the all the other extra podcasts that we've been doing for the Patreons, and thanks for all the positive comments on those podcasts, and look forward to our team changes on Thursday night podcast. So
cool.
Have a great Friday night, mate. We'll talk very soon, and for us, it's let's get a win against the Swans, and let's really make a statement to the AFL that we're coming back.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, guys, and go Bombers.